for your week's TV, just the way you like it, only 10p.
Elsie.
Alfred?
A token, my everlasting devotion and pulsating passion.
Hey, up.
Magic moments.
There are masses of magic moments in every box of Quality Street. This has been just one.
Magic
Fancy another?
moments.
I think I do.
Memories we've been sharing.
Breakfast up! It's Danish!
TV Quick, for your week's TV, just the way you like it, only 10p.
Kathy, I've been arrested for armed robbery. Just do whatever it takes. But get me out of here.
Blind Justice, tomorrow at 10:40. Tomorrow at 8, what do people have?
Oh, I definitely have the upper hand.
I think I'm at the wrong table here. I'm supposed to be with someone else.
Drinks.
Well, it seems like the fantasies are getting more important than I am. A prostitute, even.
Don't you think that's worth talking about?
A good plot.
A lot of the victims picked you out. I'm innocent, remember?
A movie thriller at 10:40 in tomorrow's lineup on ITV.
And next this evening, Sue Carpenter is standing by at the studios of ITN with the latest weekend news.
So, what have we got? Packet of new Walker's Ruffles. Yeah, I'll hold. Ruffles are ridged potato crisps. The actual crisp itself shaped into lots of little peaks. Yeah, I'm still here. And if I'm right, these ridges hold in a lot more flavor and make Ruffles extra crunchy. Yeah, good work, Matt. I was right. These Ruffles are damn fine crisps. Ruffles. More ridges, more taste.
This Easter, your new multi-channel TV Times is absolute magic, especially for David Jason. Yes, it's Delboy's different role with a big new love in his life. Turn your best friend into a super dog, and he'll be pulling winning strokes in the boat race. In Out, Shake a Leg and Get Slim with Angela Rippon's health tips, plus your program details, a big movie guide, competitions, all in your fabulous TV Times. And if you think that's magic, you could share in £1 million worth of big cash prizes.
Because the only thing you John Smith drinkers want to see on screen is the great stuff itself, we've got a lot of money left over for a soundtrack. So, after finding out what you wanted to hear most, here, in conjunction with Radio 3 in full digital stereo, is your favorite sound, performed by the world-famous Italian tenor Enrico Angelotti.
Fancy a pint of Johnny Smith, matey?
From the team that brought you Lean, Olivier, Walton, and Aida. Now comes Kiri Tekanawa.
Now on London Weekend Television, we join ITN for the news.
The news from ITN.
Iraqi rebels capture an army division loyal to Saddam. 11 dead in South Africa as police open fire on demonstration. The Chancellor says we have not abandoned Thatcherism. And mother in royal paternity row says I'm prepared to come to Britain. Good evening. Rebels in Iraq are reported to have captured an entire army division, possibly as many as 12,000 soldiers. Much of the country remains in turmoil. The army division is said to have been taken in a battle near Kanakin, northeast of Baghdad. Most of northern Iraq is now reported in rebel hands, including Rania, from where pictures show Kurds celebrating liberation. This from Simon Harris at ITN.
Iraqi prisoners captured not by the Allies but by their fellow countrymen. Clear evidence that the Kurdish uprising in the north is gaining momentum. Syrian sources say this entire army division surrendered after a battle for control of the city of Kanakin. As well as seizing several thousand soldiers, the rebels now have their weapons and ammunition, including artillery guns. On the streets of Rania, celebrations at what they believe is the end of Saddam's rule in this part of Iraq. Kurdish rebels are now said to have effective control over much of the north. The defeat of forces loyal to Saddam has not been acknowledged by the authorities in Baghdad. Instead, Iraqi television has shown pictures from the south of the country, the Shiite holy city of Karbala. That Baghdad is allowing these scenes to be broadcast suggests that here at least the rebellion has been crushed. But the badly damaged buildings and burnt-out cars riddled with bullet holes testify to the ferocity of the fighting. Iraq, it seems, is now 3 countries in one, part controlled by Saddam, part by Kurds, and part controlled by the Allies. The southern Iraqi town of Safwan has been in Allied hands for a month now, but for the 8,000 inhabitants, there's no electricity and little food or water. The American Army of Occupation does what it can, treating the civilians sick in makeshift medical centers.
A lot of illnesses are diarrheal illnesses because of some of the poor water. The water system has been disrupted.
A month after the end of the war, Iraq's agony still isn't over. But the success of the rebels in the north offers the clearest suggestion yet that this time Saddam's days really are numbered.
The United States Army is to maintain an advance headquarters in the Gulf, but the main command and control center will stay in Tampa, Florida. The announcement came from General Norman Schwarzkopf, commander of the Allied forces in the Gulf War. He told reporters in Riyadh that the United States had no plans to keep a permanent base for ground forces in the area unless invited by Gulf governments. Banks in Kuwait opened today for the first time since the beginning of the Gulf War. Cash withdrawals are restricted to £7,500 to deter people from leaving the country with all their savings.
With the bank shut since January the 15th, queues formed early this morning for their reopening and the issuing of new currency. Posted on the walls were the numbers of Kuwaiti banknotes which were issued from the central bank during the Iraqi occupation. They're regarded as stolen and won't be exchanged. Luckily, this old man found most of his cash was legal. His wife held the rest.
Because not the government of Kuwait pays it, the government of Iraq.
Finally, the queues began to move in an orderly, if somewhat slow progression towards the new notes.
£7,500 isn't an awful lot of money by Kuwaiti standards. It'll be enough for personal needs, for servicing the car, paying the maids, and maybe putting a bit of life back into some small businesses. What it won't do is to allow Kuwaitis to withdraw large sums and disappear abroad until times are better. Desmond Hamill, ITN, Kuwait.
Israeli soldiers have shot and killed 3 Arabs in southern Lebanon. The Israelis described the Arabs as heavily armed guerrillas and said they died in an exchange of fire. Police in South Africa have shot dead 11 supporters of the African National Congress during clashes at a township rally. A policeman died from stab wounds. It happened at Daveyton, east of Johannesburg. Police report 16 other deaths over the past 24 hours following clashes between supporters of the ANC and the Zulu-based Inkatha movement.
The violence erupted after supporters of the mainly Zulu Inkatha Freedom Party, distinguished by their red headbands, held a rally in Daveyton Township east of Johannesburg. Their political rivals, members of Nelson Mandela's African National Congress, had grouped in a nearby field to defend themselves, but then clashed with the police, who said their gathering was illegal. At least 11 blacks and 1 white policeman died.
The police came back in their hippos and then they started shooting at the people using tear gas, rubber bullets, and I'm told live ammunition. And people started running away, and in the process of running away, because they were surrounded by the police, they also attacked in retaliation the police.
The situation did not allow any warning shots. The attackers were right on the people at that moment in time. There's no time for warning shots at that time, because you don't want to be killed and stabbed to death and hacked to death by a rampaging group of people.
Wherever the blame lies, these police killings are bound to inflame black anger and put new strain on talks between the white government and the black majority aimed at forging a democratic constitution. Kevin Dunn, ITN, South Africa.
Here, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Norman Lamont, has insisted the government has not abandoned Thatcherism. He said even though the poll tax was to be scrapped, there had been no departure from the principal policies of the former Prime Minister. Labour today accused the Conservatives of lying, bluffing and trying to buy their way back into power.
John Major spent the day at Chequers, reflecting on a week which seems to have marked the end of his honeymoon with the voters. The polls show that the budget and community charge reforms have damaged his government rather than helping it, and that most voters don't apparently believe the poll tax will be abandoned at all. Environment Secretary Michael Heseltine fiercely denies his new plan is the poll tax in disguise. He said he proposed
a new tax, a local tax, a tax that is fair.
But while ministers are dumping the poll tax and changing other policies too, they still claim they have not abandoned Thatcherism.
I supported Mrs. Thatcher's policies. I deeply admire Mrs. Thatcher, and I think that in our central economic policy, we are adhering to her principles.
Labour's in bullish mood, convinced this is going to be a tough week for John Major.
What's happened is that the government have failed the public opinion test, both over the budget and over the poll tax. The policies are now driven by panic, by expediency and by dithering with no central purpose or philosophy. And they're trapped between the Thatcherite ideology, which they all still support, and the reality that it has failed and the country will no longer go along with it.
And the Liberal Democrats say paying for local government from central funds is also reinforcing Mrs. Thatcher's policies.
Mrs. Thatcher was seen by the public to be a dominant force in the country, drawing all power into her own hands, and power tending to corrupt. That process will be continued by John Major, who seems to be bent on the same course.
The Labour Party will pursue the issue with a Sensi debate in the Commons this week. They claim that Thatcherism and the poll tax live on. Peter Allen, ITN, Westminster.
The New Zealand woman who claims that the Princess Royal's estranged husband, Captain Mark Phillips, is the father of her daughter, says she's ready to travel to Britain to prove her case. Heather Tonkin said the child, 5-year-old Felicity, had a right to know who her father was. James Forlong reports.
Since Heather Tonkin made public her claim that Captain Mark Phillips is the father of her daughter Felicity, both mother and daughter have remained inside the grounds of their house in an Auckland suburb. The paternity suit she served on the Princess Royal's estranged husband is likely to take some months to come to court in New Zealand. Today, speaking from her home in the suburb of Whitford, she said she's not prepared to wait months to resolve the matter. And she's ready to fly to London and serve paternity papers in this country to prove her case. She added that she felt Felicity, who's nicknamed Bunny, had a right to know who her father is. And in tomorrow's Daily Express, she further claims that if Captain Phillips had agreed to meet her and her lawyers when Felicity was born, then in her words, all this anguish could have been avoided. Miss Tonkin's claims have been denied by Captain Phillips, who said he would contest the case. Since collecting his son Peter and daughter Zara from their school in Dorset yesterday, Captain Phillips has not appeared in public. Princess Anne and the children spent today at the family home of Gatcombe Park. Tonight, Buckingham Palace wouldn't comment on whether Captain Phillips was also there.
The opposition Social Democrats in Germany have called on Chancellor Helmut Kohl to hold fresh elections. They accused him of not being able to handle the economic crisis in the east of the country. Tomorrow, tens of thousands of people are expected to take to the streets of Leipzig to protest at mass unemployment. Nicholas Glass of Channel 4 News sent this report.
The main square outside the concert hall in Leipzig. This is where the German Revolution found its catalyst in November 1989. But there's a different mood about these demonstrations. Leipzigers have nothing left to fear except their economic future. And about that and mass unemployment, there's a very real anxiety.
The mood is desperation. And people feel disappointment because they have been promised that German unity would lead them upwards. And this is not the case. The way still goes downwards.
That sense of betrayal has made for an uneasy brotherhood in the United Germany. The complaint made against Bonn is that the financial help has been too little and too late. How to privatize after 40 years of communism. The neon and advertising may have brought a dash of color, but substantially Leipzig remains a second-class German city relative to its western neighbors. Industrially, like so many other Eastern German cities, it's been rendered uncompetitive. Production has slumped. It's 30% of what it was 2 years ago. There's no longer guaranteed orders from Eastern Europe, and Leipzig's factories lack the technology to compete in the free market. The old Stasi headquarters in Leipzig, now the employment center, retains its gloom outside and in. The director says his office can do little to help people find work.
Ja, es herrscht eine große Resignation.
There's a great sense of resignation. People didn't expect mass unemployment.
A trade fair in Leipzig ending this weekend brought a few people temporarily the other way, most from the old West Germany. They came to sell heavy goods, particularly machine tools. One stand in particular was trying to tempt them to invest. The much criticized Treuhund, entrusted to sell off the old communist-run factories and businesses in the east, over 8,000 of them. Unemployment inevitably pervades everything in Leipzig. There's been a dramatic increase in the divorce rate. The birth rate has halved. There are 60% fewer marriages. Basically, the people here are deeply pessimistic about their future. The signs are that the social fabric is breaking down. Understandably, the people have learnt by experience that demonstrations can yield results. They did so in 1989. And tomorrow night they'll be marching again. Nicholas Glass, ITN, Leipzig.
Here, Scotland Yard has confirmed it's investigating the financial affairs of the London Marathon. Last week, a Channel 4 programme, Dispatches, made allegations about the destination of proceeds from the annual charity event. The race organiser, the former Olympic champion Christopher Braysher, has denied fraud or false accounting, saying he had nothing to hide. Football, one result in the B&Q Scottish League Premier Division. Celtic beat Rangers 3-0. The result gives second-placed Aberdeen a better chance of taking the league championship. Motor racing, Britain's Nigel Mansell was forced to withdraw from the Brazilian Grand Prix in São Paulo this afternoon because of gearbox trouble. Mansell, driving a Williams, held second place to Brazil's Ayrton Senna for most of the first 15 laps. At one point, he closed the gap to less than a second. But with 11 laps to go, his gearbox slipped into the wrong gear, causing him to spin and withdraw. The race was eventually won by Senna, driving a McLaren, his second successive victory. Second was Italy's Riccardo Patrese in a Williams, and third, Gerhard Berger of Austria, also driving a McLaren. And that's the news. ITN has bulletins throughout the night, but from all of us, good evening.
You arrested me yesterday.
Well, this time it's for armed robbery.
Armed robbery? Look, I'm innocent. I didn't do anything.
You think I'm guilty? You're under arrest for armed robbery and kidnapping.
Is this ever going to end?
May God be with you. The nightmare has only just begun.
Freeze!
Blind Justice, the Thames Monday night movie, tomorrow at 10:40 on ITV.
Good evening. Most of Britain can look forward to several days of mostly dry and fairly bright weather, I think, thanks mostly to the area of high pressure that's going to be sitting up to the northeast there. But there's low pressure over the continent, and they've had some fairly miserable weather. And you can see how the isobars are squeezing tightly together over the southeastern half of Britain, and that means a fairly strong and really quite cold northeasterly wind for the next couple of days or so. Let's come back to tonight's weather, though, in more detail first of all. A cold night, a widespread ground frost, even a touch of air frost in places, so if you leave your car out, you'll be scraping the windscreen in the morning. But it's a dry picture, one or two odd spots of light showers, I think, down the east coast. On to tomorrow, and it's a day very much like today as far as clouds concerned. There will be some patchy cloud around, especially in the eastern counties, down in the southeast as well. and up in the northwest of Scotland, but most of that cloud will probably break up during the afternoon. So a good deal of sunshine, but it's the winds that most of us will notice tomorrow, especially over England and Wales, the southeast in particular. Those strong northeasterly winds making it feel really quite cold. And temperatures themselves aren't doing anything too wonderful either, up around 7 or 8 at best, I think. 7, that's only 45. A touch warmer where you're sheltered from the wind, and of course there will be a fair amount of sunshine around, so it's not too grey a picture, but stay out of the wind, it's going to feel bitterly cold. There's the sunset times for tomorrow evening, and I'll leave you now with a summary of what's in store for tomorrow.